Tonight, hackers are targeting your information and money.
The first thing I think is, oh, please, don't let it be us.
A spike in cyber attacks is hitting companies and agencies statewide.
Millions of Washington consumers have had their personal information compromised as a result of these data breaches.
KIRO 7 investigates hundreds of local security breaches and asks whether new laws are really protecting you. We found that often people have no idea their information has been exposed. And good evening again. I'm Steve Rabel.
I'm Monique Minglavin, and KIRO 7's Lindsay Sheldon investigates how your information is targeted and the efforts to hold companies accountable when your identity is put at risk.
It's very surprising to me. And it is frightening.
Walking along the shoreline in Port Angeles, Patty Pastore tells us she worried about hackers someday targeting her and her husband, who often used his debit card for purchases, including their utility bill. And then he asked her about an odd charge on iTunes.
It was a very small charge, and he just sat there. I says, "That's not my charge, Bob. You need to call the credit card company."
This letter filed with the Attorney General's office shows the city of Port Angeles advised 9,400 utility customers of a possible breach last July and told them credit or debit card payments would be shut down until the issue is resolved. Acting City Manager Nathan West says they hired a firm to review the alleged breach, but
we haven't been able to find any factual evidence that either fraud or data actually left the system with compromising information.
the company who makes the payment software they used is still investigating, though, nearly a year later. Proof how complicated these types of incidents can be. Meanwhile, the city has switched to a third-party vendor.
It's important to the city to continue to be protective and making sure our IT infrastructure, software and hardware is up to par and as secure as absolutely possible.
But the city of Port Angeles wasn't the only one hit by hackers in 2017. We discovered the Pacific Science Center was targeted with a spear phishing attack, with hackers accessing W-2 forms that included people's social security numbers. Pacific Lutheran University was hit, with hackers potentially accessing people's W-2 forms. And even Bellevue-based Bulletproof 360, the makers of Bulletproof Coffee, stated customers' payment card information may have been accessed on several occasions. According to a report from the Attorney General's office, the number of security breaches in our state doubled between 2016 and last year, affecting more than 2.7 million Washington residents.
It's literally millions of Washington consumers have had their personal information compromised as a result of these data breaches.
Attorney General Bob Ferguson is currently suing rideshare company Uber on behalf of 11,000 of them. Uber took more than a year to notify drivers about a data breach that exposed their names and driver's licenses.
If there were folks who had their information compromised and they had to spend money to get credit freezes or they were harmed financially, we try to get dollars back to those consumers.
He says Uber's notification broke the law that Ferguson himself proposed and that was passed in 2015. It requires companies to notify his office in 45 days whenever a data breach exposes personal information of 500 or more Washington residents. And Ferguson says he wants lawmakers to strengthen that law.
We thought the notice requirement to consumers, if their information has been compromised, should be 30 days. Also, the types of information that, if compromised, triggers these requirements, I think we can expand that to include things like your passwords on your computers.
With hackers always working to break into accounts, consumers know they have to be checking their credit card statements. But how do you protect yourself from becoming a target in the first place?
How quickly is this technology changing and advancing and
every day
mutating?
Every day.
Cybersecurity expert Brian Seeley says people need to scrutinize every email they get, even if it looks like it's legitimately from their employer.
If you get a link saying sign in, it could be an attempt to get your credentials. Go to the website they're asking you to go to without clicking on the link.
And to think twice while surfing the web and going to unknown websites.
When you click a link and you start going down the rabbit trail of whatever, you'll end up somewhere thinking, oh wow, this is interesting, or that advertisement caught your eye. If they're pulling your attention towards something, it's probably not a great idea.
After hours on the phone, Patty Pastore says their money was finally reimbursed about a week later. And she and her husband have learned their own lesson.
To me, it was a blessing. It really was. We haven't used our debit card since then. We have one credit card that we use for everything, and that's it.
That was Lindsay Sheldon reporting. KIRO 7 poured through all 200 data breaches that have been reported to the Attorney General since 2015. We found often that companies don't have enough information to contact customers directly and rely on press releases to get the word out. That is considered acceptable notification under state law. We've put a link to the list of all recent data breaches in our state under the Seen On section of KIRO7.com.